It's time for Twig. This week in Google, Jeff Jarvis is at the big U.S. Postal Service convention. Aaron Newcomb joins us to talk open source. Gina Trapani, too. A very exciting Twig in which we compare Android to the brand new iOS next on Twig.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 151, recorded June 13th, 2012. It's just a cron job. This Week in Google is brought to you by Stamps.com. Use Stamps.com to buy and print real U.S. postage when you need it right from your desktop. To get this special offer, go to Stamps.com, click the radio microphone, and use the promo code TWIG. And by Go to My PC from Citrix. Go to My PC connects you directly to your Office or Mac or PC from any other computer or your iPad or your iPhone. Sign up for a free 30-day trial today at GoToMyPC.com. Use the promo code TWIG. And by Ting.com. Ting gives you big savings and billing clarity for mobile phone service. Try their online savings calculator and save $50 on your device purchase at Ting.com/Twig. Time for Twig This Week in Google. I'm going to start with Jeff Jarvis because no one knows how long he's going to last.
Hey.
It looks like you're in a funeral parlor for one thing. Is that the coffin behind you? Is this a wake? What's going on here?
It's a wake for bandwidth. I'm at the Postal Vision 2020 conference in Washington, D.C., looking out on the Washington Monument as we speak.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have no bandwidth from this. The Lowe's Enfant Plaza Hotel has 0.16 up. So I'm on my Wi-Fi, and we're praying.
Hey, but I got to tell you, this looks fantastic.
Maybe I should do this all the time.
You'd never know.
So is this 4G?
It's 4G, yeah.
Well, I think in D.C. they've got good 4G. Who's the carrier? It's
Verizon.
So it's LTE. I think that looks pretty darn good. In fact, that might be better than a lot of home.
Chad and I were talking, though, is I want to get the, what are they called, bonding or whatever, the thing you had in your backpack at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
I want to get a Twig, keep this for this one, and then get a Ting and bond the two, so I'm safer.
I think actually, well, we'll see. I knock on wood, but this looks like you might be. This might be a good alternative for in areas where there's a good LTE. It looks really good.
We downgraded the signal, and I'm not getting video from you, and I'm not doing anything else on my laptop.
Right.
So,
well, I'm liking it.
This hotel, they supposedly had wired downstairs. It's just awful. These hotels should all be shot.
Well, one of the problems is they're sharing bandwidth with everybody else in the hotel and everything else.
They're not buying enough, though.
They were
going to charge this conference $100 a head for the Wi-Fi that doesn't work.
Wow.
But you didn't, but that was their going-in bid.
And you're at a postal. Wait, I haven't introduced anybody else. Let me introduce the rest of the panel
first, yeah.
And then I want to hear what this is all about. Of course,
and
Gina
then you
Trapani.
Can do your Stamps.com commercial.
And then I actually will do a Stamps.com. Gina Trapani is here, of course, from smarterware.org and thinkupapp.com. I'm going to move you in a little bit closer, Gina. I don't like you so far away there.
Aww.
You were, but I'm mad at you because you were in the area and you didn't stop by.
I was. I'm so sorry. I was up there for a couple of days. I had like back-to-back meetings for ThinkUp, and I was at food camp over the weekend, and then just had back-to-back meetings for ThinkUp, and just got home last night. Just started to watch the WWDC keynote this morning, 3 days later.
So that's what I thought you were here for, because you are doing iPhone development as well as Android development, right?
Yeah. And actually, someone in the chat room asked why I'm carrying an iPhone. It's because I'm dog-fooding my iOS app. So
right.
I love Android, and I'll be a Google I/O in a few weeks, but yeah, that was it.
Likely excuse, Gina.
Is it to do text you're dog fooding? What is it that you're?
Yeah, it's to do text. Yeah, exactly. I wanted to get a sense of what it was like to walk around in the world. Instead of just getting an iPod Touch and using it as a test device, I wanted to live with it the way that my users were. So that's why I switched.
Well, now I got to know. Do you like it?
I do. I like iOS a lot. It was a big learning curve for me because I was Android for years. There are just a lot of iOS conventions that I didn't know about. I mean, people say that iOS is just naturally easy to use. There are certain things about it, like double clicking the home button and certain like swipes and gestures that I had to learn. But overall, yeah, I really like iOS a lot, and I was impressed with the keynote this week. And I think that Apple just does really great, designs great user experiences. I do believe that. I love Android too, and I'm really loyal to Android's values, that's for sure. Yeah. And I think Android's made a lot of progress, and I'm thrilled to hear Android news in a couple weeks at Google I/O. And I'm dying for that phone that you've got in your hand there, Leo.
I love this Galaxy S3 more and more. It really is a wonderful phone. I
really appreciate both for different reasons.
All right. Good. And you might recognize this fella sitting to my right in studio here. Aaron Newcomb is here from The Source Show. It's a open source podcast, hacking, making, that kind of thing.
Yep.
He also frequently co-hosts our Floss Weekly open source show.
Yep. Try to do that as much as possible.
We love having you. And full disclaimer, you worked at Sun when Sun was acquired by Oracle.
That's correct.
You were acquired as well, so you are an employee. What do you do at Oracle?
I am in hardware marketing. So...
well, if any big database hardware comes up in this conversation, you must
turn to me. I'm your man.
No, I was going to say you should recuse yourself.
I should recuse
but
myself.
Frankly,
exactly.
maybe we should turn to you. That'd be better. Anyway, it's great to have you, Aaron. I'm a big fan.
Thank you very much for having me on. This is great.
Not the least of which reasons because you always bring donuts
in the morning.
In the morning, he is a welcome guest at the Brick TWiT House. So I guess we should start with WWDC because a lot of people have pointed out that. Apple made a number of announcements about iOS 6, its next version of the operating system for the iPhone, that many of the features in iOS 6 are really just cribbed from Android. In fact, it's pretty obvious.
One piece that says that Android's still better that's on the list.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So we can go through these. The most obvious one is the Maps is probably the biggest news story, which is that Apple is, in fact, going to boot Google Maps from its operating system. You'll still, I'm sure, be able to get it as a third-party app and do its own maps, which are, as far as I can tell, a direct clone of what Google's doing, especially...
Except people are having fits because it doesn't have driving or transit directions. I mean, walking or transit directions.
It doesn't have walking, biking, or transit. Right. It also doesn't have, and I think this is not a small thing, doesn't have Street View.
Yeah.
I like Street View. When you use it, Dvorak, of all people, is always raving about how when you use the turn-by-turn on Android and you get there, the Street View pops up and says, there it is. That's the building you're going to. And that has some real use. I think 3D, which both Google and Apple are doing, they both have little mini Air Forces flying over major cities, is a cool thing, but not really of much use at all.
Is there some use for it that we don't see the same way that Street View is probably useful for self-driving cars and all kinds of other things? Is there some reason that it's not enough to just be cool? It's not very useful, the 3D.
Not in the same way that Street View is.
Right. Street View is really useful. I mean,
it is. But the 3D stuff, I don't get the investment.
I think that, I don't know, and maybe it's because you and I, Jeff, don't think spatially like that for directions, but I know my wife loves it. So
really?
Yeah, my wife really loves to drag down the map and turn it into 3D. For some reason, it helps her navigate a little bit better. Well, that's
different on turn-by-turn. She wants to see. Yeah, but that's not – that would be distracting if it used those actual rendered buildings. That's not what you see. You want to see the little kind of simplified version of where you're driving. And I agree on turn-by-turn.
Right.
But what is this is like Google Earth. It's got a high cool factor. I can't see it's really
little
practical.
application.
I don't really see it. Just a quick correction. Walking directions are in iOS.
They are?
Okay. Yeah. Andy Bayo did
I walked corrected.
Yeah, there were some reports that said that it wasn't in it, but it is. Bike directions are not there, and public transit aren't in the current beta.
But
does it have traffic?
Yes. In fact, that was how we knew that Apple was going to do this, because remember a year ago, when there was a privacy issue about Apple, remember saving that large database of where you'd been, the database of Wi-Fi access spots and GPS locations, Apple is, in explanation at the time, said we're developing a traffic app. So, yeah, they probably will have the best traffic, maybe even better than Waze. Waze is same idea, crowdsourced traffic information, WAZE. It's on iOS and on Android. But I think if you have, 380 million iPhone and iOS users doing it all at the same time, you're going to have excellent traffic, especially in areas where the iPhone is very popular. Somebody pointed out in the chat room, this is true, because there is, and this is huge, an API from Apple, much like Google does with its maps, you might expect third-party apps for subway or walking, biking. Well, they have walking, but biking. This is going to empower apps throughout iOS, much the same way that Google Maps does, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the first one. The second one is Siri, and Siri's smarter. Siri's more like the original Siri app that Apple bought. It can book tables. It can finally launch applications. Now, the reason this is a little confused is because, for instance, what's available on my Galaxy S3 is a Samsung product. And I can do all of those and more with the Samsung product, but I don't know. What is the Google product?
Well, it's voice commands, right? I mean, it isn't a personality quite like Siri. It's just
there is Vlingo. Are you familiar with Vlingo?
Vlingo. Samsung used to ship Vlingo.
Well, the S Voice is uses Vlingo.
It still does use Vlingo?
Yeah, in the background.
It's branded as Vlingo on the Galaxy S2 and the Note, and now they've dropped the branding on the S3, but it's still Vlingo.
It's still powered by Vlingo, yeah. Okay. At least according to Lifehacker.
It looks a lot like Vlingo, so I could show you. And by the way, I think the dictation is more accurate in Siri. So
here's the thing I wonder, though, beyond that, Leo. People have been I hear people all the time say, Siri's not that good, it's not that good. How good is it?
Siri's pretty good. What do you think, Gina? You're new to this.
Hit and miss. I mean, sometimes I say things to Siri and it spins and it can't, fulfill the request. Other times it's great. Certain things it's great for. I use Siri to set reminders constantly.
Excellent and very accurate there, I think.
Yes.
Shopping list too. If you say add bread to my shopping list, which is really a reminders list, it does that almost perfectly. And it has the geofencing, which is very cool, and they're going to enhance that geofencing. So, for instance, when you walk into the store, you can have it set up so that it will, or when you leave work, it'll remind you, things like that. But these are things you can do, if not natively in Android, with third-party apps for sure.
Right, but it's interesting that Siri's built into iOS, right? And that she's such a personality that she did the opening monologue at the keynote.
And slammed Android.
And slammed Android, yeah. I mean, I think John Gruber said that there was clearly like an FU Google tone throughout the whole thing. And Siri kind of said it in the beginning, right? It was Siri talking on the iPhone and then the rim shot on the iPad.
It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, she actually, made fun of all the, they showed all the Android build names and that reminders list, and she said, who's naming these things, and that was interesting.
Yeah, and it was interesting that no human took that tone, but Siri was allowed to. Siri's like the vice president. The vice president is the attack dog, not the president. Siri is the attack dog. Let's some other features that Ice Cream Sandwich.
What about Passbook?
Yeah, Passbook. Passbook. Now, there's no analog in the Google world, although
there's a bunch of analogs, right? You can do every piece of what Passbook does, but it's not integrated into one app.
Right. Fandango will let you buy movie tickets, but not airplane tickets.
Right. My United app has the boarding pass. My Starbucks app has that. So it's all on there. It's just not pulled into one.
I would submit, and I think that was always true in iOS as well, and I would submit that the unification into one tool is what makes Passbook interesting, not the...
Passbook is really interesting. But if you look at it more broadly, Passbook is about offloading all the stuff in your wallet to your phone, right? And Google's trying to do that with Google Wallet. But, I was talking to a friend, and I give him all the credit for making this observation, is that, Google Wallet is really cool, but you can only have it if you have NFC and if you go to certain, retail shops that support it. And this whole idea, I mean, I absolutely believe that, tapping to pay with your phone is absolutely the future. But people are getting there slowly. Right? I think people are really kind of skeptical and not sure that they're ready for that yet. And Google's kind of released that in a very limited way on limited hardware with limited retailers, right? Apple is introducing the idea that you're going to use your phone for wallet-like functions kind of slowly and easily. I mean, the idea of, having my Starbucks card pop up when I approach a Starbucks and that it's the balance is automatically deducted, that I never remember what the balance is on my gift cards. That's a beautiful user experience. It's not that threatening, and it kind of introduces this idea that your phone will become your wallet in a way. I think that was a lot less sort of extreme and limited, I think, than Google Wallet. So I was really impressed with Passbook. The idea, I haven't tried it yet. I haven't installed iOS.
Oh, and there the 4G fails us. No. Oh, he's frozen. We're going to we'll get Jeff back in a second. I do think that the thing about Passbook is not so much what it can do today, but what it says about what Apple's intentions are down the road. I mean, if you add the true contents of your wallet that we care about, Starbucks card, okay. Movie tickets, airline tickets, okay. But if you put my credit cards in there, if it becomes an Apple wallet, especially since Apple already has my credit card, as does Google, I guess.
Have you gone into an Apple store with the Apple app and purchased something?
No, but I know people who have, and you don't have to talk to a human.
It's wild. It's a wild experience.
You've done it?
Yeah, I've done it. It was incredible. I was like, I had the app installed, the Apple Store. This is the Apple Store app. Right. And I had it installed because, it gives me stats on my own sales for my app. Actually, that may be a different app. You know what? I'm sorry. I went to the Apple Store and I was buying something, a time machine, and someone said, and the Apple person said, "Hey, you can buy this using the app." And I was so excited, I actually installed the app right on the spot and did it because I wanted to try it.
And you could go in, take it, and walk out, which is really weird.
You take the thing off the shelf, you scan it, it charges your Apple ID account just like as if you were buying an app. And then you just walk out of the store.
So weird.
Isn't that the future of shopping, though? I mean, isn't that what's going to happen?
Absolutely.
That's what Apple would like, and Apple would love to get a little 30% on all those transactions. It probably wouldn't be that high, but...
and I think that's why there's so many players in this market. I mean, everybody is trying to get into this.
Right.
Obviously, all the credit card companies are trying to get into it. Google, Apple, all the cell phone carriers are, coming together around one product or another, one standard or another. And I really think there must be a lot of money here because everybody is clawing at it.
Jeff, we got it back.
So sorry about that. And I'm sorry for this connection.
Oh,
this company called InfoTrends did a study to say who would you most trust to handle a digital email account, similar but for business. Number one, Amazon. Last, Facebook. Really interesting because I think people don't want to mix. The reasoning was they don't want to mix their social and their, so you have in your business, and so you have banks, phone companies. And technology companies all vying to be that trusted intermediary. The problem is, I hope they're not going to charge 30%, Leo. 3% for MX is bad enough.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure they won't. that's.
But I think there's an opportunity here to undercut all of the credit cards, and something you could imagine Google doing, of saying we'll charge 0.5% for transactions and make it work just to become the killer, and it could change transactions, which would be a good thing I think for businesses and us.
Who has the natural advantage? Is it the OS maker, the handset maker, or a third party like Visa? I think the real feel that Visa and MasterCard and Verifone, which really hates Square, for instance, have is that they're going to get disintermediated out of business.
Which should be a good thing.
Wouldn't be a bad thing.
Nobody really likes their bank or their credit card these days.
Right. Although I have to think that somebody's going to partner with somebody. So here's an opportunity for Visa to say, I'm sure what they're waiting to see is who's going to be the winner in this horse race, or at least this preliminary heat, and then jump in with them.
I would love it not to be a phone company or a bank or a credit card. I would love it to be a Google.
Well, and I think that's the clear choice of consumers is Apple or Google, right? That we would trust Apple or Google. We don't want Samsung. We don't want Visa.
Though remember back in the day, Microsoft bought my friend Upender Chardonnan's business. I'm suddenly forgetting the name of it. That was actually a music recommendation business, but they bought it to get Passport.
Oh, no, Passport, right, yes.
Right, so Passport was there where Microsoft now...
That was an early attempt,
12 years ago was going to be the wallet.
Single
and I think
sign-on.
One of the reasons it didn't work was that we didn't necessarily trust Microsoft with this task.
Yeah, and I don't know if we trust Google either, do we, really? Maybe Apple's the one, because Apple, we know what Apple's business model is to sell hardware. So they're kind of like Switzerland in this, right?
Yeah, but the problem is, unless Apple decided to do it for other handsets, then it's only of limited utility.
Well, unless you have an iPhone, and then you're good. And that's why Apple does this, because it makes people buy iPhones.
True, but then that doesn't get them into all the stores across the world. Because
I think it does.
Really?
Well,
there's got to be a partnership. I mean, I don't think Google or Apple want to be in the transaction processing business itself, that part of it.
So they partner with
they partner with, like, I think Google's really already partnered a little bit with MasterCard, right?
Actually, you're partnering with the back ends. There's back end transactions.
With Yodlee is who you partner with, somebody like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's even back end ones to that. There's big industry shifters, and I can't remember the names of them right now, but those are the guys that you probably buy one of them.
Yeah. Exactly.
I saw it in a movie. They were the guys who handle all the transactions behind the scenes.
Right.
I can't remember who it is. I'm sure somebody will tell us.
I remember in the early days of Condé Nast when I was there working on Style.com and that kind of stuff. To try to get a store up in the early days was torture.
Yes.
And the only way you could really do it in the early days was by having a Yahoo store.
Swift. That was the company in Europe. I think Swift is worldwide.
Right. Swift is international. Yes, they're international.
Yeah.
They do the upper bank clearances. There's also a lower level credit card.
Right, to get your Swift number. Right.
Yep.
So how do we want to pay? So this is the next question. So Google's betting we're going to want to do this kind of almost a swipe or a tap against a piece of hardware. Apple Passbook right now looks like it's using barcodes and QR codes.
Right.
Which I'm not sure that's a good. That's kind of, I think we've experienced, that's kind of in a hit or miss, right?
Well, but it's not the problem of you having to take a picture of a QR code, which goes nowhere. I use the Starbucks app all the time in Starbucks, and all I do is hold it up in front of the scanner, and it's done, and boom, it's very easy.
Right. What do you think, Gina? What would you like?
Yeah, I want that. I mean, I don't care about the technical implication. Like, I just want it to be easy, and I want it to work. Buying that thing at the Apple Store that way was.
You swiped a barcode, right, on that on the product?
Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I was actually looking at the barcode. I was pointing the phone at the barcode on the object, on the the product.
The problem with NFC too is I think people will have this fear that is it charging me for things when I don't know it?
Right.
Whereas when I hold it up and the scan and it beeps, I know that that's a finished transaction.
Right.
Right. I'm like, people are like, tap to pay. Tap to pay is not that big a deal. The fact is that paying for a meal at a restaurant with a credit card involves handing over the card, bringing it back, signing.
That's scary.
There's a lot of transactions. Yeah. And cash is dirty and inconvenient. And you can get lost. I mean, there's so many things. Paying with your phone is a much easier transaction, and I think that really somebody in the chat room asked, do people really trust Apple, or are they just trained because of iTunes? I mean, Apple really has done the best job, and has been doing this for the longest, of training people. Like, hey, we've had your payment information, we've made it so easy for you to buy songs, and now apps, and now software on your desktop, and now products in our Apple stores. Apple's really teaching users like how to pay, and that it's safe and secure, and that it works, right? Well, I mean, Apple really hasn't had any security issues with payment, and they've had credit card. I mean, they were talking about this at WWDC. They have the largest database of credit cards that they know of. So I don't know what that means, if there's another one.
Is Amazon a player in this? I mean, Amazon is the payment method for Kickstarter, right? Yeah. I'm surprised I haven't seen them do more. I would think they'd be such a natural.
But they're not in your pocket. Yeah, I mean, the Kindle. The Kindle is a buying machine, right? An Amazon purchasing.
Right, for that, but they never think past their own shelves. They've got this infrastructure. I mean,
I bet you they are thinking. But I don't
see the results. I mean, so if Apple starts to become preeminent, what's Google's relationship with Amazon? Is it hostile because Amazon didn't give them credit with? In the fire, or is it good because they're an Amazon? They're a distributor of Android.
It's a very interesting landscape we're about to enter.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it is interesting. But I think being in your pocket. I mean, your phone is in your pocket, so you're going to pay with that anywhere, right? You don't have your Kindle in your pocket, and I mean, Amazon is great for payments on the web, right? But that's
the other thing that does that's really interesting is the fear of credit card fraud. Right? Somebody can take your number, and all the fear about, oh my God, they have your number and your other little numbers. There's been a breach of security and all that. If we start to get to physical devices, that's going to be potentially a much more secure transaction. People are going to feel a lot better about it.
We had Bill Harris on Triangulation a month or two ago. He was former CEO of PayPal. He runs a kind of mint-like website called Personal Capital now, but his great interest is in finance. He says it's all an authentication problem.
Yes.
Anytime you have payments, really the problem is merely, are you who you say you are? Am I who I say I am? Once we validate that, then the transaction can proceed securely and safely. And so if you think about it in that case, these phones are really perfect for that kind of thing.
This is a great cloud story because money really is a cloud.
There is nothing. Yeah, it's all bits.
Yeah,
it's all bits. It's all just up there somewhere, and you have to have authorized and authenticated access to a supposed virtual value in the cloud.
So who is the best at authentication? Does anybody have a leg up on this? I mean, Google probably, right? Who knows? Facebook. Facebook knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
maybe it's Facebook.
It could be. Facebook and Amazon
Facebook
together.
Doesn't have my credit card.
But Amazon does. There are partners
Amazon
who do.
does. Yeah.
Right? You could imagine a lash up there to be very powerful. So why would Facebook do that to get back at? Well, I mean, supposedly now Facebook's all lovey-dovey with Apple, but how long will that last?
Yeah.
It's very
Facebook and Apple. Apple doesn't really have your credit card. Apple has access to transactional infrastructure at scale.
The potential for this is so massive, and we're talking trillions of dollars a year, I'm sure.
And the data and the knowledge.
And
about
the data.
Yeah. That's what the value really is.
So
because there's going to be competition on the rates to come down, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, but there's huge value, and even if you're doing millions and millions of transactions a day, and you only get a fraction of a penny per transaction, it still can be a significant amount of money. There's huge incentive. You've got a lot of stakeholders here, most of whom are competing with one another, but there is incentive if you could see your way to a winner. If you could say, it's Facebook, if only they had hardware. Maybe that's why they're doing a phone and a credit card. There's got to be some way that this
Well, what will kill them, Leo, is if the retailers can't stand to have 5 different hardware standards.
No, one way has to work.
Yep.
And in fact, with credit cards, it didn't work when it was Visa or MasterCard. It didn't work till it didn't matter. And you just go in and you give them a piece of plastic. And if you had to think about, do they support MasterCard or Visa, be a pain. And that's why MasterCard and Visa won versus American Express, Discover. Remember Diners Club?
Oh, yeah.
Well, do you remember the days, Leo? My mother used to have a charge plate.
Charge plate at Macy's,
it was a metal plate, and it had notches in it based on what stores it was authorized to use.
Right. And none of that worked because it was too fragmented, and that's kind of the state we're in right now.
Yes.
At some point, there's going to be some, and it's going to be like rock candy, I think, because I think we're just super saturated right now, and we're just waiting for it to click. And then when it happens, it's going to happen, and you will look back and say, wow, that was fast. Remember, like ATMs. I mean, people don't go into banks anymore. It's going to be like that, where just everybody.
Well, then it's going to turn around too. Is the ATM was there to get rid of the tellers? Once they got rid of the tellers, and so they begged us to go to the ATMs to save them money there. And then once we're all in the ATMs, they try to charge us for the ATMs.
Right.
Yeah, I think the key is it comes down to 3 things: ease of use, ubiquity, and security. And
Precisely.
Whoever can do those 3 things first, the best is going to win, or at least be the leader for a long time.
And that's why you look at somebody like Square, who really is kind of the out party. They're not really. They're doing a great thing. I love Cardcase, or what I guess they pay with Square now. They call it. But I go into the local coffee shop here because that's the one I can go in and just say put it on Leo, and that is a really perfect. It's got convenience on its side, but it doesn't have ubiquity. And I think without ubiquity, I trust them and it's convenient, but it's not everywhere.
Yep.
There's another one on Kickstarter, and I supported this project. I forget the name of it, but it's an iPhone case. And what you do is you take all of your credit cards and affinity cards and scan them in or roll them in. And then you have one card out of the case that's readable as if it were your Starbucks card, as if it were your United Airlines card.
This is terrible.
Yeah, I think it's probably not going to work. But
is it too late to get your money back?
No, it's one of those things I'll put in the closet.
I have thrown away so much money on Kickstarter, and this is a perfect example, Jeff. You don't even remember the name of it. You thought it was a good idea. And you don't even remember the name of it. They got your money.
Before it's too late, before it's gone.
They got your money. It's too late. It's over. We're going to take a break. Jeff Jarvis, Gina Trapani, Aaron Newcomb are here. We're talking about Google, the cloud, Facebook, and, a little Apple, too, because Apple's announcements. Actually, there's a really good article on The Verge about comparing Chrome and Safari on the new MacBook Pro Retina. And it just shows you everybody, including Chrome, have to update now to support this high resolution. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal. A guy said, "Businesses, CIOs, watch out! These new don't let your employees get these new displays. They'll suddenly be watching high def video all the time." Jeff, what are you at? You're at a postage conference? What is that all about? We lost him.
Quick, a guy in the industry named John Callan, a delightful, wonderful, nice guy. By the way, there's a lot of our fans here.
Good.
There's fans here. So they'll be watching. So John read my book, What Would Google Do, and tried to apply that to the Postal Service. What would Google do if it on the Postal Service? And the head of the Postal Rate Commission, Ruth Goldway, happened to answer a question at a conference, just that question. What would Google do if it on the Postal Service? And she said Google would buy everyone in the country, every home in the country, a computer and a printer.
Minitel.
Right. And so it led to, I helped last year a little bit more than this year, but John organizing a conference of trying to get all the people together, trying to figure out what the future of the Postal Service is. This is the second one this year, talking all about the Postal Service as a platform. What should that be? What should it be enabling? And a lot of discussion. It was really fascinating. Four of the experts who were on one of the panels I ran, really, really smart guys, I asked them, what's the opportunity? And the four things were control of the address structure, tying, your name to an address where you can reliably deliver. Number 2 is big data. Number 3 is e-commerce. The Post of Hong Kong has places where small businesses can come in and very easily send things, not just receive. And 4 is trust and privacy. And
yes, there you go. You talk about authentication, the Postal Service.
Exactly. Some danger there. I don't want to have a national identity card that we have to use for the internet, but you do want identity for things like all these transactions we just talked about and all that authentication. If the Postal Service said, yes, this is really you.
The USPS has been talking about us signing and stuff like that, right? I mean, I think they've been involved in
they've been doing various things. But the Postal Service is in terrible financial straits. Yeah. The Postmaster General spoke here yesterday and said straight out that it's Greece. Which is pretty serious talk. But so it's this weird thing. John Callan brought me into it. What the heck do I know about Postal Services?
What a fascinating
for 2 days, and it's a fascinating discussion about another industry in great disruption that should be a platform for a lot of innovation. And here, one of the vendors mentioned, you're going to follow me for this, as an entirely new way to do indicia and to do selling of stamps, and in terms of going into the post, having to go into the post office, and do we need 35?
Oh, he's fading in and out.
All the people at the conference
so
are
over to you,
break.
Patterson says he wants the Postal Service to deliver cold milk and eggs, and then soon they'll be delivering shampoo. And wait a minute, that's the milkman. I do think the Postal Service clearly sees an opportunity with indicia. That's the ability to print postage yourself, and that's where Stamps.com, our sponsor, actually, in fact, I'm going to do a Stamps commercial right now, really has a leg up. They've been doing postage, printing postage, not a postage meter. We're not talking Pitney Bowes here. We're talking your computer, your printer, no special inks. You print postage right on the envelope if you want. You could print stamps. You can actually buy blank stamps and you print on there. Print on a piece of paper and tape it to the box. Stamps.com. It's how they work with the post office so that you can buy and print U.S. postage with what you've already got. They even offer a USB scale so that you're always using exactly the right postage. They've got a lot of really neat solutions. Plus, the Postal Service likes Stamps.com so much they offer you discounts you can't get at the post office. Up to 21% on express mail and up to 15% on priority mail. They make it easy to mail packages of any size. The mail carrier come and get it free. You can even schedule free pickups. So the post office loves Stamps.com. It's really a solution for them, and I think this is a great solution for you if you're a small business. Lots of good features. In fact, if you are a heavy user, you don't even have to pay anything for this service. It is so great. I want you to try it right now. We've got a special no-risk trial offer if you go to the Stamps.com website. Now, wait a minute. Before you click that, no, see that $80 offer? Don't click that. Click the microphone above it. This is kind of a trick. And use the offer code TWIG, T-W-I-G. That's how they know it was us. And they're going to offer you, oh, there's my smiling face. If you don't see my face, don't buy it. If you see Adam Carolla's face, it's not for you. You get a $110 bonus offer, $55 in postage coupons, the digital scale, USB scale. You just pay shipping and handling on that. I think it's $5. There's the details. Read the details too. If they get the supplies kit, the month trial, This is a great offer. I really like it. I want you to try it right now. Stamps.com. Click the radio microphone. Use the offer code TWIG. And try this for 30 days. I think you will be very impressed. And I know if you're an Amazon or eBay seller, you're going to just love it. It's the only way to fly. And just you never have to go out and go to the post office again. Stamps.com. Are you back, Jeff? Yeah. It's funny. It's good. When it's good, it's great.
It just, I think somebody comes in and makes a phone call. How dare they?
It's network congestion.
Network congestion.
And let me thank you, Chad. Chad's calling me back constantly.
Yeah, that's fine. That works. We're used to doing that. It's amazing what we do to keep this network on the
air. Spit there. Put your thumb there.
It really is. If you saw the basement, you'd understand. Apple's going to integrate Facebook and Twitter. We've had that for a long time on Android. In fact, we've had everything. I've got Pinterest, Pinboard, anything with a pin in it I've got integrated. I could share. In fact, the only negative on Android is my sharing list is so long, and sometimes I have to scroll a long way because it integrates with everything. And there's an advantage Android has by being open.
Yes.
Just works with everything.
Something I really miss. Yeah.
Apple is, let's say it, stealing the notification system that Android has. It's so good.
Which you've wanted for ages.
Yeah, yeah. That's on the desktop, actually. They're going to do it, too, on the desktop. So they liked it so much.
Yeah, I mean, the convergence of iOS and Mac OS X is very interesting to watch that happen slowly. That notification center looks exactly like it does on iOS, and it's on your desktop now.
It's amazing. And Growl has been Sherlocked, unfortunately. I feel bad about that.
Yeah.
They're going to add this is really interesting. They're going to add cellular calls to FaceTime. Now, you can do that with Skype and Tango, but to have it built in to the OS to the point where you go to a contact and now, and it's been this way for a while, but the buttons always said call, FaceTime, message, or email. And now it doesn't matter if you're on cellular, you can still do it. And I think that's interesting. I don't know how they got the carriers to go along with that.
Well, it's easy. They're charging people for bits, right? The carriers probably love it.
Yeah, but I think the issue was all of those people, and I'm still one of them, with unlimited data plans on AT&T.
Oh, you're going to be a dodo bird soon.
I know. I'm on the target.
Verizon's new plan.
I could feel the laser targeting on my forehead.
And Google's obviously had some form of this with Gtalk and doing phone calls and Google Voice to some extent.
I think what Apple fans say, and I might be one of them in this case, is that, but Apple's going to do it nicely and elegantly. And with Android, it's always kind of a little bit of a kludge and a little bit difficult to figure out how it works.
That's not wrong.
It's not. Right. Apple creates beautiful, simple user experiences, right?
Yep.
They get the UX down.
Yep.
So Apple, so is this unfair? Apple tends to take the ideas from Android and then burnishes them, and then Android learns how to burnish back?
Well, that's the thing. I think it's complete cross-pollination. It's not a one-way street. Just as Microsoft took the recycle bin from Apple's trash can. I mean, and this is all good for users because it just makes everything better.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple may try to sue. In fact, they tried very hard to keep the Samsung Galaxy S3 out of the U.S. They're asking the International Trade Commission to actually block it. And I know why. It's a really good phone, probably better than an iPhone. And so it's not that it infringes, it's that it's too good, in my opinion. I know John Gruber and MG Siegler will disagree, but I happen to think the Android phones are better.
I thought it was interesting, I'm not an iPhone user, so some of this was new to me, but I was really surprised, like unique account signatures for email.
I know.
I was like what?
What? You don't have that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then another one was, like, I guess you can't attach things. I'm a total noob when it comes to iPhones because I really don't like them, but you can't attach things in email apparently, and now you can at least attach a photo.
No, it's the handling of the attachment. I think once you get it right,
you can't do it from within
the email.
From within email, but you do it from a third party. So you have to go from the
in the photo app. You can attach a photo,
email, exactly.
But you can't attach like a PDF or other things apparently. And I guess they're
Apple locks down the file system. I mean, that's really the key, the secret of what Apple is. I mean,
to me, that's crazy. How do you expect to get work done on your phone if I can't send a copy of my presentation to somebody that I'm working with, or a PDF of something that I'm working on to somebody else? So anyway, I found some of those things to be really Really interesting that they didn't have already.
To me, that's a design decision, and I understand the design decision. I'm looking at Apple's Mail app in the iOS, and there's just 4 buttons. It's very simple, right? And the more features you add, okay, now you're going to add a paperclip. That's the 5th button.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that makes sense. And Gina, you're a software designer, so I know you. This is a constant decision, a trade-off decision between simplicity and functionality.
It definitely is. My other favorite moment was, we are going to merge the search box and the address bar in Safari. So you just type something into this one place.
The last browsers not to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
The very last browser not to do that.
That's innovation. But I mean, I'm really glad. I'm glad because I still type search terms into Safari's address
constantly.
bar.
And for some reason I'm not fully sure of, Chrome does not work very well on Macintoshes. You kind of have not all of them, but for some reason on some of my Macs, Chrome is like slow as molasses. Wonder why that could be.
I wonder.
Now you're using Chrome, right?
No, I'm
got
not.
A bunch of tabs. No.
I'm using Chrome, but I'm using it under Linux.
Oh, you're in Linux.
And Linux on my MacBook Pro.
Just so everybody knows, Aaron looks like he's using the white Apple.
Right. We'll just cover that up.
It should really be.
There we go.
Else.
Yep, it should. I got this from work, and they said, "Hey, this is really cool. We hear, so have one." I was like, "Oh, great! Let me install Linux on it as soon as I get it home."
Wow! Did you wipe Mac OS?
I didn't wipe it only because I want to be able to go out and get hardware updates or software updates.
Right,
if there's something, a driver or something that's not
working.
working.
That's right. Firmware won't be updated unless you have OS 10 on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've been running Linux on this since I've had it, and I have not been disappointed. I've been able to get it. It works great, and
that does not look like Ubuntu. What is you running?
It is actually Ubuntu.
But you're not running that new shell that Ubuntu has.
No, I could be. This actually is.
It's not Unity.
I took Unity off.
I'm not crazy about Unity.
I can't stand Unity.
Yeah. So what are you using for your desktop?
So this I'm using. Actually, I'm going back to the GNOME 2 compatible shell
for
this, and I recommend Linux Mint to anybody. I installed
it has
on
GNOME and it doesn't have Unity.
Exactly. Linux Mint it's based on GNOME 3, but their shell is so much easier and better to use.
I completely agree with you.
So anyway, Linux Mint. Sorry to get off topic, but
no, I took you off topic.
There's no such thing as being on topic on the show.
It just brings me so much great pleasure that we're talking about WWDC and you're running Unix on your MacBook. Let's have that conversation. I love that.
Well, and I'm the bad.
That just makes me happy.
I'm the consumer who actually the minute they announced that Retina bought one. And it's on. Of
course you are.
I got all excited because I got an email from Apple this morning, and it turns out the notebook's not on its way, but the MagSafe adapter that will allow me to use older adapters on the new MagSafe connector is. So I'll be getting that tomorrow anyway. We'll do an unboxing. Andy Rubin, laid a bombshell, right? You got to think there was a concerted effort on Google's part to do the best they could to kind of throw some water on the Apple bonfire. They knew that the WWDC conference was coming up last week. They did their Maps event to say, no, see what we're doing. They wanted to make sure they announced that stuff before Apple made its announcements, and they were right to do so. Mm-hmm. There was a lot less ooh and ahhing on the 3D feature, for instance, because Google had announced exactly the same thing 3 days earlier or 5 days earlier. But Andy Rubin tweeted also last week, conveniently as a pretext, using the fact that Scoble had tweeted or Google Plussed a completely bogus rumor that Andy Rubin, the Android head at Google, was going to leave for a startup called Cloudcar. In fact, Rubin then used that as an excuse. No, I'm not leaving. And just to make sure the meme is complete, there are over 900,000 Android devices activated daily.
That's amazing.
And then drilling down on that, I think some people thought, he must mean like reinstall. No, these are activations where they're going to a phone company and saying, I'm signing up. So that's real. I mean, that's not a bogus number. That's an amazing number. That's almost 1 million a day.
It's almost 1
million a day. Does that include Kindle Fires, by the way?
No, I'm sure it doesn't because they don't say it's an Android device. I don't know. That's a good question. Even if it did, that can't be more than a few thousand out of the number.
True.
I don't even know how you can get to 900,000 a day.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Are there other devices we're not thinking of that are powered by Android, or
Well, it's got to include a bunch of inexpensive Android devices in the underdeveloped world, right?
Right. China, India.
And when I was in Korea, man, you didn't see iPhones. You saw Samsung Notes.
Mm-hmm.
You saw new phones and lots of them.
They say, though, that this does not include Wi-Fi tablets because they're not hooked up to an account. So there may be many, many more devices out there. I find it hard to believe, but I believe it. I don't think he's lying.
I'd love to see a breakdown on this. You know, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure that there's some way they could hide the numbers so, you know, they didn't give away too much information, but just show, like, how does this break down per country, per device type? I'd love to see a breakdown because just so many numbers. I mean,
they don't want to show that. It would be a fragmentation evidence.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
That makes sense.
And I love the picture on The Verge too. I don't know how they got that picture
of Andy Rubin going.
After the rumor that he was leaving, you know, they've got this picture of him saying, "Look, here's my phone."
I'm not leaving.
I think it's
What is that phone? Is that a Nexus? Looks like a Nexus.
Yeah, I
S.
think it is. I think it's a Galaxy Nexus
rather.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving Google. I love Google.
I'm still here.
I love Google. We're getting excited about Google I/O. Apple's had its developer conference now in a couple of weeks, Google I/O. Kevin Marks asked, by the way, if he can have your ticket, Jeff. Do you mind?
It's not up to me. It's not transferable. I would love for him to have it. Just have go to the press folks.
All right, we'll go to the press folks.
Yeah, let them know
and say,
that I wasn't. But yeah,
we want to send a different correspondent, Kevin Marks.
That'd be the thing to do, yes.
You ever hear of him? You might remember him. He used to work for you. You'd think Kevin could get into Google I/O.
So.
We're crying out loud. Anyway, we'll talk to the press people. 3.7 million Android activations on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. 900. That was last year. 900,000 daily now. Pretty soon, the whole world will be using Android phones. I mean, don't you run out of people at some point? 30 million a month.
There's a lot of
What's the OS, Leo, for the phone that's in a Ford?
Microsoft. Actually, it's Windows CE.
Right, of course, it's Windows, right?
But now that was another boy, was that an interesting one? And I had to say I was gulping a little bit because Apple announced that they were making a deal with everybody but Ford, including Mercedes, General Motors, Chrysler, Honda, Toyota, to put a Siri button on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Ford got Sherlocked. Because, I mean, basically, if you put an iPhone in a car and put a button on the steering wheel, you've got Ford Sync.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Now, of course, you have to have an iPhone. But if you're buying a $100,000 Mercedes, I think they should throw the iPhone in.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Maybe they'd sell more.
What? It's an iPhone. Yeah, you know what? They'd sell more.
They probably would sell more.
Just build it into the price, guys. So is Apple just abandoning their relationship with Google? Is it really all over now? This is kind of the Maps thing that kind of does it, right? It's
well, I think it's the Maps thing. It's the Facebook stuff that they announced. Obviously, Facebook, kind of has it in a little bit for. It's one of their.
I guess that was bad news. They didn't mention Google Plus integration,
right? Exactly. So I mean, I think all of these things, and starting with there was an article on Wall Street Journal about this actually, about how really most of what Apple announced is about taking down or trying to compete better with Google. I think that is what it's all about at this point.
As Scott Forstall pointed out, that Apple iPhone users are far more satisfied than Google Android phone users. 75% of our customers check the top box, very satisfied, compared to less than 50% for the competition.
But that's like saying you're more satisfied with marijuana than air. It's a drug. I like them too.
Wow, let me think about that. You mean people are satisfied with the iPhone because they're stoned?
Buy it, yes. Right? It's a cult. It's a religion. And don't get mad at me, iPhone people. I have it too. I like it too. I got my 3 Apple products right in front of me here. So I'm not dissing you, but let's admit that it's far more cultish. And
I
so
think
the
first
level is going to be higher.
The first step is admitting that you would have no control over your addiction. Don't you think?
Apple will work with Google products when it suits them, right? Google is the default search engine in Safari.
It's still there, by the way, interestingly enough.
Yeah, and will be unless there's a better alternative, right? I mean, the fact that there's not Google Plus sharing from the notifications bar, I mean, that's just because Google Plus just hasn't, it's not, I mean, you know, it hasn't had the penetration, right? I mean, if everyone was using Google Plus and users wanted Google Plus, I think that Apple would have supported it.
Good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. They're a market-driven company.
Well, I think that's a big part of it, Leo, is what you just said. I mean, interestingly enough, in this Wall Street Journal article, they say that 58% of Apple's revenue in the quarter ending in March came from iPhones. So, I mean, that's their biggest.
Holy cow.
That's their biggest revenue-generating profit right now. And then if you look at the smartphone distribution, 59% of global smartphone shipments in the first quarter were Android. So I think, you know, for Apple, they see the writing on the wall.
They're threatened.
They're threatened, just like they were with Microsoft back in the day. Maybe not, you know, they were the underdog back then, but you know, I think that they really feel threatened by the potential that Google has in this and what they're actually demonstrating and showing they can do in the marketplace now.
Mike Elgin pointed out something that I noticed has been happening with me on Facebook on the mobile platform. I don't know if it's happening on the desktop platform. Facebook has become more of a walled garden. When you click on external links, and maybe this was a bug. I don't know if it's gone now. But when you're in the Facebook mobile app and you click on any external link, including Google+, as Mike points out, you get a warning saying, security alert. This link may not be safe. You are about to leave the safe environs of Facebook world. There are unwashed masses out there. Be careful. I got to try this and see if it's still doing it. When that happened, I was offended. It wasn't just Google. It was anywhere on the free and open web.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my co-founder Anil wrote this great piece called "Facebook is gaslighting the web," and that was one of the things that he brought up is that, you know, Facebook instills this distrust of any link that goes outside Facebook by default. I think that's probably a bug, though. I think there were some folks from Facebook who came in and said, "Oh, you know, this was a bug. We didn't, you know, that this shouldn't pop up for every link."
Don't they test anything at Facebook? Seriously.
If you move fast and break things, that's how Zuck does it.
Oh my God! You would think somebody would have noticed that. I don't know. Was it a bug, or did they wait and wanted to see what the reaction would be?
No,
but it's so silly. They're not really going to say that they don't really believe that. I don't think it's not worth the tourists that go through. Yeah.
Nope. I just got it. Okay, so I'm scrolling through my Facebook. This is on mobile. Through my Facebook news feed, and I saw a great article by M.G. Siegler I wanted to read on his website, parislemon.com. Please be careful. For the safety and privacy of your Facebook account, remember to never enter your password unless you're on the real Facebook website. And be sure to only download software from sites you trust. Sincerely, your friends at Facebook. No, I added that last one.
Facebook is actually making another interesting change to their API, which is affecting me at ThinkUp, which is that when you authorize an application to access your Facebook data, that token, that privilege only expires now after 60 days. So you can't say this app has access to my Facebook data forever.
No, you're constantly asked for a relogin.
Yeah, exactly. You're constantly asked for relogin. So every 60 days max, it can be shorter, you have to ask the user to reauthorize.
I just clicked a link to Ford Motor Company. Please be careful. For the safety and privacy of... This is not a bug, Gina.
Maybe it thinks you're 9 years old, Leo.
Stranger danger.
It's almost like they got their whitelist and their blacklist mixed up or something.
But I'm telling you, this is on the Ford Motor Company fan page.
All right, try to
You
go
want
to
to lose General Motors? You want to lose Ford? Do start doing that. These page links stop working. Yeah, you're going to have some very angry people.
Try to go to Microsoft, Leo. Go to a friend of theirs.
I think it works on everything, and maybe it is a bug, but
it's a long-lasting bug. Mike wrote about this how long ago? Hours ago.
I'm trying to find a Microsoft link. You know, that's the problem. It's only whatever's in my news feed. Boy, that's just shocking. This is Spotify. That's a partner, right?
Well, Apple's there.
Oh, even worse. Please be careful.
Yeah, this is terrible.
Oh.
So welcome to the walled garden. Now, that's on the mobile. I don't think it's doing it on the desktop. But, boy, that's AOL 2.0, isn't it? Please be careful. You know, it's dangerous out there, and we love our friends at Facebook. Yeah, it doesn't do it. It's interesting. It does not do it on the desktop.
That sounds a little bit like a bug. When Anil wrote his post, Facebook engineer said, I work on the Facebook on the team that on the team that generates the warning in question, the site integrity, and this warning appears to be a bug. This is a while back.
We're still doing it.
I'm going to email the Facebook guys right now.
By the way, and we had last week, we bashed Facebook for killing the weather mines. Or actually, it was not Weather Minds, but it was his James Spann's individual site, and it did go back in 18 hours. And they said we should reiterate this. You had a conversation; it was complete error, and they fixed it as quickly as they could, which they did. They fixed it within 12 hours. And this has happened. It's happened to Scoble. It happens all the time. It's just that I don't mind so much about. But I think so. And some of our chat room is reporting this is now works on the this is happening on the desktop as well. Ooh. So
what
maybe
do I call this?
What is this security warning when we click on links from within Facebook? See, I'm getting a direct link out to the web for me on the same link that I did not work on mobile. So maybe it's just mobile. Maybe it's just Android. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't reproduce this on the desktop. All the links are going.
Let me try it on iOS.
Well,
it could very well be, and I think this is kind of well within Facebook's kind of MO, that they thought, well, let's just see what the reaction is. We can always call it a bug.
I've emailed Elliot Schrag and Andrew Noyes.
Poor Elliot. Every Wednesday I get an email. It's those guys
but
again.
He was glad we asked.
No, and I was glad to give his response.
That's nice that they gave a response.
Maybe it's just me because this is another. Yeah, no, and they responded very quickly.
The guys were the people who knew were all off at an offsite. So they gave me a response immediately, and they came back the next day after they verified and talked to people and said, it was a mistake. Sorry, this is what happened. I'm done.
So I'm clicking on iOS now to see what happens on iOS. And it may be that it's just me. That's another thing. I don't know if you're seeing it. They're not short URLs. They're full links with little thumbnails and all of the above. It's being very slow right now. I'm going to take a break while we... No, you know what? It's funny on iOS. Oh, but that was a Facebook page. Let's go somewhere that's not a Facebook page. Here, Yahoo, fish oil fail, trending articles. Oh, it's another Facebook page. Nope. Yahoo. Let's see if it goes out to Yahoo. So I did not get that error on iOS. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm in a test group. Are you getting it, Gina, on your...
Things are weird and slow. Right, I'm checking it right now on iOS. It's not happening on the desktop.
Let's see if the Ford thing happens. Because this happened on Android. I got the error message. Maybe there's something that knows about my...
Are you using Chrome or the built-in browser?
I'm using Chrome. No. I'm using the Facebook app. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
It's not happening to me on the desktop.
It's a bad idea. Right?
Oh. It is. It's a really bad idea.
Oh, it's clearly a bad idea.
It's a bad user experience.
It's knock it off.
The web. It's just bad.
Well, and it makes me. Truthfully, it's bad for them because I will not. If I can't click links in my news feed without getting that every single time, I'm just going to stop using it. Right.
Well, especially when they're trying to do deals with news corporations to have this. But I'll come off like a fanboy of the company, but I just can't believe it.
Here it is on the desktop. One of our chat room people said, I got it on the desktop too. For the safety and privacy of your Facebook account. And this is a link to the same Yahoo page I tried to go to. So that's really weird. A Good Morning America site.
It didn't happen for me on iOS in the app.
It's selective.
So it's
selective. I'm not getting it either.
Something's going on.
Right.
It sounds like it could be one set of servers.
Right.
That has a bad version in it. That happens. And it's not checking in. It has some kind of, blacklist or whitelist. It's not checking in. I'm just guessing here. And it says, when you fail to do something, then make sure you show a warning. And it's showing a warning. It doesn't happen to me on iOS. So this is the thing. We've got to get better on the net about these things happening and not having a fit. And,
right, because there's mistakes that are happening right and left.
Yeah, the fact that these guys at Facebook, they've done some stupid things at Facebook. Let's be clear about that. But, they'll answer the question. Send them a question. They'll answer it.
We're going to take a break and come back with more. This is fun. Aaron Newcomb is here from the Source Show?
Yeah, The Source is the name of the podcast, and the URL is thesourceshow.org.
.org.
Yep.
Got it. if you want to know more. And, of course, Floss Leakey, he's a regular on there, and he works for Oracle in charge of Big Iron.
And I've been on All About Android for, I don't know, four or five times now. So I'm a stand-in.
Yeah, he's an Android guy. Yeah, that's a ticket. Jeff Jarvis here from D.C. today, where he's at the big Postal Conference. And Gina Trapani from San Diego, California. We'll have more in a moment. But first, I mentioned these people traveling all around because sometimes when you leave town, you wish you could access your office computer securely, easily, quickly. Sometimes you just go home early and you say, oh, shoot, I forgot to, and you don't want to turn around. That's when Go to My PC runs to the rescue. Go to My PC from Citrix is the best remote access solution out there. And now you can use it with your iPad or your iPhone, which is very, very cool. Or your Android tablet. They got an Android app as well. Because suddenly you're accessing your Mac or your PC, your Windows machine, from your portable device, I mean your iPhone. And you can do everything you could do at work. You could send and receive email. You can access network resources. They get a keyboard on it and the whole thing. So if you get that urgent request, hey, where's your PowerPoint slide? Or can you put some numbers in this spreadsheet? We're missing your input. Or the boss calling, hey, did you see my email, Smithers? Where's your response? You don't have to turn around. You don't have to go back to work. You just launch Go to My PC on your iPhone or your iPad, and you take care of it. Send and receive email, run any program, access any network resource. Go to My PC. Here's a free 30-day trial. See that orange button at gotomypc.com? Click it and use the offer code TWIG. I'm sorry, promo code. It's going to be a hard habit to break. Promo code TWIG. See, it even says offer code on the lower third there, by the way.
Is this a legal thing?
No, I don't know why, but for some reason the sponsor has asked us. I don't even know if it's Citrix. It might be their agency. Please, could you say promo code? And it's force of habit because it says promo code on the site. And I think if I say, I think actually this makes sense. If I say offer code and you get to the site and it says promo code, you might be confused. Do not be confused. They're the same thing. There you go. I said I'm going to call it the Leo code. Use the Leo code TWIG. You know what I'm talking about. The promo code there, the field, put TWIG. And that's just so we get credit. That's all. So they know where you heard it. Go to mypc.com, click the try it free button, use the promo code TWIG, and we thank them so much for their support. I've been saying this for a while. You know, I got this phone, and I love this phone. I am in love with the Galaxy S3. I go to bed with this phone every night. I wake up to it every morning, sometimes with my limbs wrapped around it. And I have to say, it's great. But I have to point out also that it is a quad-core processor in here. And I have to ask myself, do I really need 4 cores in a smartphone? Well, Intel now says, no, you don't. Of course, this is an ARM processor, right? Intel says that the current versions of Android make woeful use of Intel's dual-core processors. Poor implementation of Gina, you're going to have to translate. Poor implementation of threading technology by the operating system saps any benefit dual-core processing brings to a system and could even be detrimental to performance. He said even Ice Cream Sandwich has a bad thread scheduler that limits the benefits dual-core ARM processors bring to Android to phones. Now, remember, Intel's trying to get people to use an Atom processor in phones.
Interesting.
But I have to say, I do agree with him, whether it's a bad thread scheduler or not. I can't really think of a compelling reason to have 4 1.4 gigahertz processors in this device.
Right. Well, you're never going to get 4 times the amount of processing power. Just because you have more cores doesn't mean they're usable. And I think that's what they're trying to get to here. I mean, when I was at Sun, we found this out because we were coming out with something called chip multithreading, which was like 32 cores on a on a chip.
Wow. It's kind of like hyper-threaded stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so this was one of the big problems that they had to overcome was the scheduling, the thread scheduling in the kernel had to be adjusted to make proper use of that many multi-processing going on. So that was something that I know that the engineers worked really hard on, and they were able to overcome it. Otherwise, we would have never been able to put that many cores into a chip.
Well, but also the truth is that you aren't probably running 4 concurrent processes on a smartphone. I mean, yes, you have, when you do the recent apps thing, it shows you all the apps you've launched, but they're not really running on Android. They're kind of, at best, in a sleep mode. They're not using
They're in like a sleep mode, yeah.
Yeah, they're not using CPU cycles.
Yeah, dealing with multiple processors in a mobile app it's like the problem is amplified so much because you're switching apps very quickly. The app has to be responsive to your taps, even when it's making network connections, which can also often be slow and are often switching from Wi-Fi to data to nothing. I mean, there's just a lot more going on your mobile phone than on your desktop computer. So the threading has to be really great to be efficient and make good use. And I would love to see an objective third party kind of.
Well, that's the problem.
Prove this point, right?
Yeah, because Intel. Somebody in the chat room said it. As soon as Intel has quad-core processors for mobile devices, they'll be saying how great they are.
Right.
In fact, we wouldn't have these multi-core processors if Intel hadn't realized they couldn't get to 4 gigahertz on a single core. And they said, well, I guess we'll put 2 in and we'll say it's twice as good.
And it's kind of an odd strategic positioning to say, oh, you don't need a good chip.
Right. Yeah, for Intel it is. Yeah. Now, Anand Tech, thank you, chat room. Again, Anand Tech has a review of the Lava Zolo. Isn't that Russian singer? Lava Zolo. It's a Intel Medfield-based phone, and they're running the JavaScript benchmark, and boy, oh boy, it does have the best time, well over every other phone, all these other Android phones in the JavaScript benchmarks. Here's Browser Mark. Also, the Lava Zolo is tops, only bested by the international version of the HTC One X.
Which is quad-core.
Mm-hmm. And I don't see the Galaxy S3 on here. So how about, let's look at low-level floating point performance. Again, very good, except the quad-core beats it. The Lava Zolo. Who's buying this phone? I can't even say it. Here is LinPack, which is a scientific benchmark. And the HTC One quad-core phone handily beats the Lava Zolo. So maybe the Intel is not the super... But remember, the Medfield is not a quad-core. I think is the Medfield 2 cores? Here's a Qualcomm benchmark, which presumably would do very well with the Qualcomm chips, the Snapdragon. So they left the Snapdragon off, and the HTC One, again, clobbers the rest of these. I think you could safely say that, at least in these benchmarks, which are synthetic, the quad cores are doing pretty well.
Yeah, you have enough bandwidth to do much more.
Yeah, benchmarks are not they're so synthetic that they're doing stuff that you don't actually do on a phone, right?
Someday we will.
Yeah. It can be very misleading. And again, those benchmarks might be able to take advantage of the quad cores where I don't know of a whole lot of Android apps
that are threaded in the first place, right?
That allow multi-threading, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of desktop apps. Games certainly do this.
Photoshop.
They take advantage of those multiple cores, but I don't know, and I could be wrong, chat room can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know a lot of applications yet, at least for Android, that take advantage of multiple cores. They all run in one core usually. So
your Google TV's getting an update. Sony and Logitech both updating to 2.1.1 and Honeycomb. Actually, Honeycomb. Honeycomb. The Logitech review is going to Honeycomb 3.2.
God help us.
Honeycomb. It's a great name. Lousy operating system. Now, there is the new Google TV box, and that will be ice cream sandwich, and we'll have AirPlay-like streaming. I have to say, this is another thing that I really like on the Galaxy S3 is DLNA, which is that kind of the open, real version of AirPlay, Apple's AirPlay. And I was able to play back music. I haven't tried it with video yet, but play back music onto. I have 2 DLNA-compatible devices, a AV receiver and a little internet radio, and it was great. I pressed the button, it sees them. They're all on the Wi-Fi network. I press play, and boom, it's playing from the phone. It was really sweet. I presume when they say the new Google TV box will have AirPlay-like streaming, it will be using DLNA. allowing Android phones to stream media directly to a TV. However, users will need to run a separate app to stream content. That doesn't sound good.
Is this the Honeywild device
yes.
that you guys mentioned?
Honeywold. ARM processor. They will only be sold in Taiwan, $95 to $120. I think you also have to consider the market, and a U.S. device might have very different feature set, right?
Yeah, these little USB devices are becoming, or USB profile devices seems like they're coming out like crazy now, and I think this is one of them. These devices, they're really small. They usually have a HDMI plug that you can just plug right into your TV,
right? And
they're running Android 4.0 on an ARM chip. It's pretty incredible what they can pack into these things.
Andro stick.
Exactly, that's one of them.
So I don't know if these things require MHL HDMI. This is a new spec for HDMI. It's called MHL. It provides power. And means that you could, because Roku's going to do a Roku on a stick that will plug into this MHL port. You know, I have my Onkyo AV receiver has an MHL HDMI port, so I will order this Andro stick. It is about the size of a USB key, full Android capabilities, multimedia services, Wi-Fi, HDMI plugs right into your TV. It doesn't say it requires MHL. Let me look and see on the product page. It will work with IR remotes, wireless mouse, mini keyboards with touchpad.
I mean, these things are incredible, and they're the size of my thumb, basically. I mean,
this looks really cool. So wait, but this isn't a Google thing. This isn't a Google TV thing.
No,
this is just Android on a stick.
This is better than Google TV. It's Android 2.3 Gingerbread. It's on a Cortex A9 gigahertz processor. It's got a Mali GPU, 4 gigs of NAND flash built in. Built-in Wi-Fi 802.11 B, G, and N. Mini USB port for power supply. HDMI 1.3 doesn't require MHL, it looks like.
That one doesn't. I mean, most phones come with MHL, and even if you don't have an MHL-capable receiver or TV, they're starting to come out now. But even if you don't have those, you can get an adapter on Amazon for like $10 at the most.
Yeah, it's like a pigtail that comes out of the phone's HDMI or USB port, and then has that special HDMI adapter. These things will use DLNA. I think this is going to be an explosion of little tiny USB. You have one?
I've got one somewhere.
A little explosion of devices. This one is called Andro Stick.
I was trying to get Chrome on one. I couldn't do it, but
you have
Chrome
one.
OS. I was trying to get Chrome on a stick.
Oh,
I failed, but.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these coming out, and they're all based on the various ARM chips.
Right.
You got to kind of be careful because the nomenclature with ARM is a little goofy. So, like, ARM 7 is more powerful than ARM 8, and you have to be a little bit careful. But there's a lot of these coming out, and I think it's really great that technology has gotten this small and portable, and
it's amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really
amazing. Cool. It's like it's like these. What was the name of that little mini computer that was $40? I want to say the peppermint stick, but it was something like that. Chat room.
Raspberry Pi.
Raspberry Pi. I can't wait to get
peppermint
mine.
stink. Raspberry Pi. There's a definite sweet tooth
You should be
developers.
naming Android operating systems.
Yeah, really. Raspberry Pi sounds good. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna get that.
I was hoping I would have mine by today to bring it in with me, but
I don't know if you saw our Security Now earlier today, but Steve Gibson was talking about something pretty amazing. Apparently, now we had talked before about Stuxnet and the New York Times article saying that was an joint Israeli-U.S. spy development to take down the Iranian nuclear enrichment plants. They were aimed directly at the centrifuges of those plants. They were a government cyber warfare weapon from the U.S. and Israel. And then we heard shortly after that about a much older, ginormous malware called Flame, or Flamer, a variety of names. Crisis, I think, what was it? There were some other names. 20 megabytes in size with a lot of modules. Last week they had a suicide module, and last week Command went out to Flame installations to self-delete. Well, now researchers have, and I think very convincingly, connected Flame to Stuxnet. Apparently it's the same, they believe the same people wrote it. This code is nearly identical in both. There's a module of code that's identical in both viruses. Kaspersky Lab discovered this. So I think we now know, although I suspected, where Flame came from. And in fact, one of the very interesting revelations was that Flame is using super sophisticated number theory to create collisions in the hashes, or to take advantage of collisions in the hashes. And mathematicians were saying only the best mathematicians in the world could have crafted this attack. These guys are like super good. I think we know now that they're very busy in Quantico, Virginia right now.
But isn't this the? I mean, you know, here I have fits on this show about China doing evil with hacking sites in the U.S. and going after Google and the whole Google fight. It really does put us in a terrible arguing position that we do it.
You know,
I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but
I think we just have to drop the thing, the holier than thou. Oh, you're using cyber warfare. We would never do that. Hell yeah, we'll use it. And what the hell's wrong with it?
Oh, Leo the Hawk.
Well, here's your choice.
Cyberhawk.
Yeah, I'm a cyberhawk. And here's your choice. And this was the choice the Bush White House made. You know, Vice President Cheney wanted to bomb Iran. So did Senator McCain. Remember, bomb Iran? That was their plan. Imagine how destabilizing that would have been. Fortunately, cooler heads prevailed, created a virus to slow down their nuclear enrichment. Wouldn't you rather have that?
Right, but the next time we get attacked by one of these bad
what do you – well, okay, so there is, you know, in warfare, we do often make agreements like the Geneva Accords. Well, we won't use bioweapons if you don't use bioweapons. We'll all agree no civilized nation should use bioterrorism or whatever. Should we be doing that with hacking?
It's not their internet, it's ours.
Yeah.
So you and Gina agree that it's bad to use cyber warfare?
It puts us in an uncomfortable position. I'll go that far. What do you say, Gina?
I maybe wouldn't have stated as strongly as Leo, but actually, Leo, I think I agree with you. I mean, I feel like it's a defensive necessity.
Wow, surrounded by cyberhawks.
Well,
all right. What's the fourth vote there?
Well, I think it's an unfortunate reality of the world we live in. Put it that way. I mean, it's the reality. That's what we are unfortunately, you know, stuck with. Computers started coming, viruses followed soon after, and you know, I would agree with Leo. It is better than sending the planes over enemy territory.
So we go from realpolitik to realtechnique.
Why not? Now, I admit there's collateral damage, as there is in all warfare, and we saw that with Stuxnet. It foolishly leaked out. It was intended only for these Iranian nuclear enrichment plants. It was propagated on USB sticks, and it leaked out, and it did spread. And then malefactors who, you know, were non-political took advantage of the code in there. But I think that we have clearly with Flame, you can see some very, very, very sophisticated coders at the NSA who probably are the best programmers in the world who are writing stuff, and I'm sure that they will make sure, or do their best to make sure, that this stuff is very highly targeted. Mm-hmm. And look, let me put it in a very specific way that might make it easier to accept. If I said to you, Jeff, well, we have a choice. We could bomb these nuclear plants in Iran and run the risk of igniting a forest fire, a wildfire in the Middle East that we can't contain, or we could very selectively inject malware into their system that would break their centrifuges and slow them way down. Which would you prefer?
It is I don't want to make an equivalency here, but it is the logical version of the nuclear weapon argument that, you know, bombing Japan ended the war earlier.
Yeah, but it killed a lot of people. This did not.
I agree. But it's the lesser of evils. Oh, geez, I guess I'm a Pollyanna. I just I was downstairs at this postal conference, believe it or not, talking to somebody from the State Department because they're related to the ITU and they're related to all the stuff going around the world. And we had a very high, you know, falutin conversation about trying to uphold the principles of freedom on the net. And the net as this tool and fight against nefarious governments doing nefarious things on the net and not nefarious governments doing things that will open the door for nefarious activities and the political activities and so on. So it's hard to stay above the fray. Maybe it's impossible.
I don't know the right answer, and I'm being overly provocative, but I think it's a very interesting question, and certainly cyber attacks can be used to kill many civilians. If a cyber attack against our electrical grid or our water system or a variety of other things could be absolutely as deadly as any bomb.
But I'm also enjoying you as Dr. Strangelove.
I think if the United States I have to phrase this very carefully because I don't think the United States has any moral supremacy or any right or there's no the U.S. White man's burden or anything. So I'm not saying that. But let's say there were a coherent threat to the United States and to our security and to our shores, and we decided that the best way to fight that threat would be with a cyber attack, not one that kills a lot of innocent civilians, but a cyber attack that is very targeted and effective. I would think that would be a far preferable to a lot of other choices. I'm not talking. I mean, why shouldn't we use those?
Okay, now that I'm going to absurd, I'll continue the absurdity. Is a drone attack better than an infantry attack?
Oh, now we don't have time to get into that one.
I was going to say this opens up. That's
a very different conversation.
Oh, I don't disagree, but you got to put things on a continuum somewhere, and that's less. It puts fewer lives at risk.
I'm a pacifist, and I wish there were no war and killing at all. And I don't think people should kill. I don't think there should be war. But I'm also a realist, and I think that there are cases where you do have to fight.
Yeah, and I agree. I was a pacifist until 9/11, and liberal in the foxhole was me.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to use. I mean, let's use World War II. I mean, let's find when was the last good war? Okay, let's say World War II. Nobody would argue that. If you could have, I mean, we did. We tried to blow up Hitler. Mm-hmm. If you could have successfully blown up Hitler, I think that would have been a good thing.
Oh yeah.
And yet nobody wants to acknowledge political assassination as a legitimate tool.
Right. True.
So that's a very difficult realm, and I think it would be a mistake to rule out the use of cyber warfare as a tool of the U.S. foreign policy.
Okay, all right. We can still debate it, but okay. Next question, more appropriate to the show perhaps, is were our special, wonderful Quantico geeks bad because, number one, Stuxnet spread, and number two, it could be tied to the other worm? Did they do a bad job?
Well,
this is an interesting conversation.
It is, and I can think of reasons they might have done that on purpose.
Weird.
I think it wouldn't be necessarily out of the question that the U.S. government would like our enemies to know that we are capable of this, because after all, who has the best computer scientists in the world?
Korea.
All right. On that note, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with our tooltip and number of the week. This is a great conversation. Let's table it. One of the things what Tom Merritt and I really want to do, we want to use the Oxford debate format for some subjects.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
And I think that would be the very first debate submitted, that cyber warfare is a legitimate tool of foreign policy.
Ooh.
Agree or disagree? Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be
fun.
Yeah, that would be a good
I like that.
You've got the right people here to
how responsible are developers for the software, the effects of the software that they build?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And what's your moral responsibility as a software developer? Yeah. Okay, well, we'll put it all off for the debate.
Okay. We're going to take a break. When we come back, our tooltip and number of the week. But first, a word from Ting.com. We're talking Android phones. Let me tell you something. It's not just the handset. You've got to get a better cell carrier. And these guys, I love them. I love them to death. It's actually Elliot Noss and his team at the Ultimate, Two Cows, the Ultimate Collection of Windows Software. They used to be. I think they just call it Two Cows now. Elliot came to me last year and said, we want to reinvent cellular companies. We realize it's a terrible experience for human beings. And there is a better way where you could save money, get very clear billing, pay only for what you use, never pay prepayment penalties, never pay premium prices for excess bandwidth. That's Ting.com. They have real people on the phone. There's a no-hold phone policy. Just check it out at Ting.com/twig. You can find out. They have a little calculator that you just put in your stats, who your current mobile provider is, how many devices you have, what your total is, and then you take a look at the Ting plans. And here's the beauty of it. This is all just suggestion, because no matter what you pick, you could say, I'm going to take extra large minutes. That's 2,000 minutes and 2,000 text messages a month, and say 2 gigabytes, and I'm going to do 3 for my family's 4 phones. That would in total be $109 for 4 phones and all of that. But if I don't use all of those minutes, they give me my money back. If I use more, they charge me at the same rate. There's no penalty. And I get voicemail, picture and video messaging, 3-way calling, caller ID, tethering, and hotspot for free. It's built in. I don't have enough time to tell you all of the great reasons you should check out Ting. They use the Sprint service. That's the nationwide Sprint network. So if you've got good Sprint coverage where you are, Ting will work just as well. They've got great phones. Now, I should say the way it works, because you're not getting a subsidized phone, is you're going to be paying a little bit more for the phones up front, but this is the fair price. And if you use our show code TWIG, you'll get $50 off that device. Galaxy S2. They have feature phones, too. The Samsung Conquer. They've got some very nice Android phones. They call them small computers. I love it. These guys are geeks, and they want to do a better phone service. They even do, by the way, the MiFi cards, high-speed internet cards, USB, and they have the Sierra and the Huawei mobile hotspot. So I got to tell you, ting.com/twig, please, just do yourself a favor. Find out about it. You're going to love it. Make it better. The only way to make it better is to patronize a better company. Let the other guys know, hey, there is a better way. Gina Trapani, your tip of the week. You got 2 of them. Go ahead and do both.
Yeah, I'll do both. Okay. First one is called Blockly. It's a web-based graphical tool for people who are interested to learn how to program, or at least people who are interested in learning how to think like a coder. Go to this, if you go to it, what is it? It's code.google.com/p, Google Blockly, just Google Blockly. Web-based graphical programming language. Users drag blocks together to build an application, and then you can output the source code.
This is so cool. This is so cool. So I can move forward, turn left, or turn right. So move forward. Turn. Oh, I see. You go down. Okay, turn left. And you see it right away, right?
Yeah. So then you can run the program. If you click on the Run Program button, you can see what you've done. How it works.
Oh, this is fun. Okay.
And this was inspired by Android App Inventor. It was a similar kind of WYSIWYG put together my Android app. And fun for kids, fun for, I think, anyone who's really trying to get an idea. And I think you can put loops in there, and you can, have the little, for people who are listening, we're working on one of the Blockly demos.
This is just a demo,
which is a maze. Yeah, it's a maze. It's the little Pegman, the yellow Street View guy who's on a map, and Leo is dragging and dropping the moves that he should make. Go forward, go left, go right, to make him circle the maze and reach. I guess the goal is to reach the little Google Maps pin there at the end.
I think that's a good goal.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I mean, this is a very trivial, but what's interesting is it generates Java code, so you can actually see what the Java code you're generating is. So that's a good way to learn Java as well, right?
Yeah.
Or JavaScript, I should say, not Java.
Yeah, JavaScript. You can export a Blockly program to JavaScript, Dart, Python, or XML. Which is pretty interesting. This is just a preview, and it's kind of fun, but kind of fun to play with. But check it out if you're interested in WYSIWYG coding tools.
Yeah, I am actually. This is really neat. All right, and your other pick. Wait a minute. Let me just see if my program works.
Oh yeah, let's see if you run. Okay, Pegman making a left. All right.
It should have sounds.
It should.
Waka, 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 waka.
It is.
Yay, I win!
Yay. And he does a little wiggle at the end. That's great.
Isn't that cool? And you can also see, you can have, as you said, logic. So I could actually write that was a very brute force, but I could also write one that would sense walls and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, do a while true and make Pegman go back and forth continuously.
So you could write a solver, a more generalized program.
Yeah. So my other pick is the new version of Foursquare, which came out for iPhone a couple weeks ago, came out for Android. It's beautiful, and I love it. And I have to say that Foursquare, I was in San Francisco this week. I don't spend a whole lot of time there. I spent the entire time looking at Foursquare's Explore tab, which is really
great.
They're
really emphasizing now,
It's not a game anymore. It's not check-in. I mean, they have those features, but really it's about
it's a recommendation engine.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you got your friends hooked up, and what's interesting about the new app's layout is that to me it looked very Google Plus-ish. There's a big emphasis on images. Comments and likes are in line. So if you're following people on Foursquare, I know a lot of people who aren't into the check-in location, the geo apps are probably skeptical. This app is really nice. It's really fast, and it's now the experience is the same on Android and iOS, and it's hugely upgraded. And I find myself taking a lot more pictures and commenting to my friends, hey, let's meet up for coffee, kind of making ad hoc plans inside the Foursquare app really than anywhere else. And fantastic for recommendations for restaurants or whatever when you're nearby. And it works particularly well when you're in San Francisco during WWDC and your friends are nearby.
It's much more of a social network than it was before, which I think is really interesting. I mean, I could see spending time here now.
Yes. Yeah. And they've added likes. So you can heart people's, so all my San Francisco friends were liking my check-ins because it's like, hey, you're in my town. Right. Which is really fun. And you can upload multiple pictures and swipe through them. It's a really nice experience. And it's a lot faster, which is always Foursquare's Achilles heel. I mean, if you pull out a check-in app, if it takes a long time for it to figure out where you are, that gets old really fast. And this app is quite fast.
Yeah. Look, Russell unlocked the flame broiled badge.
Oh man, I am such a badge collector. I am a dedicated badge person.
Me too.
I always want new badges. It's terrible.
I'm back on Foursquare because of this app, I have to say. Jeff Jarvis, your number of the week.
By the way, Facebook, both people responded to me. The one asked for a link, the other one asked the time frame, so they're trying, but they don't have an answer yet. My number of the week, appropriate to me at the Postal Vision 2020, is 168 billion. Whoa. That's how many pieces of mail the USPS delivered last year, and that's down 3 billion from the year before. They deliver to 138 million addresses every day, 228,000 routes, and 217,000 vehicles in their fleet. Just a little ways to understand why it costs 40-some cents. I don't even know how much it costs to send a letter. Do you know?
44 cents, I think.
I see. I wouldn't even know that.
I use stamps.com. It just prints it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Aaron cede my seat to Aaron because Aaron Newcomb has come up with. You could take a pick. We only have a minute left.
Well, I'll usually do a tool, right? So yeah. I'll do a tool. This tool is called, I don't know how do you pronounce it, Grive or Grive, I don't know, but it's basically, if you remember, when Google came out with Google Drive, there was no native Linux client interface that you could use. So, of course, what does the Linux community do? They get to work and they build their own. So this is called Grive, Grive, and you can go out and get it. It's on GitHub. They have a GitHub page. It's grive.github.com/grive. And so if you're a Linux user and you want to interface with Google Drive and have your documents sync back and forth, you can now do that with this tool. It doesn't support they don't have packages for every version of Linux. There's a PPA you can get if you just search for Grive PPA. You can find PPA is an Ubuntu term, which is a way to get packages on Ubuntu, so that you can get that. I had to build it myself last night on my server that I run at home.
Such a geek.
I know. It wasn't that bad, and it worked right away. It's very, very simple. You just go into the directory. I love that you can use it from the command line, so you can actually navigate into the directory that you want to sync with. And you just type in Grive, and it syncs automatically. It does all the things. It doesn't do it.
That's pretty neat.
It doesn't do it. If you want it to do it automatically without user intervention, you have to put it in cron or something like some sort of scheduler. But
hey, what could be easier than that?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody can do that.
Just do a cron job,
right?
Yeah.
But actually, it's really nice. The reason I like this is because for people that work on the command line, it's great. And also, if you're a script writer, if you write scripts, having the command line interface there. So, that's the first thing I did was I went into my backup script and edited that to automatically launch Grive after I run my backup job, so it syncs everything up. So I went into Google Drive this morning, and sure enough, there was a backup of all my MySQL databases waiting there in my Google Drive. So
this would be good for your server, I'm thinking, for
absolutely.
the web server.
Yep, web server, or if you're just running on your laptop and you want to and you run Linux like I do most of the time, go give it a try. The only downside is that Google they have committed to developing integrated tool for Linux, so this may get superseded at some point. or Google may change their API. It's always a possibility, and this, there may be some hiccups along the way. But if you're a Linux geek like I am, go give it a try.
Aaron Newcomb, thesourceshow.org for his podcast all about open source. Of course, he's on Floss Weekly. So nice to have you. All about
thanks
Android
for having
from time
me.
to time.
Yeah,
what does the shirt say?
Save Ferris.
Save Ferris. Now I know why they were talking about Ferris Bueller. Except that's not Ferris Bueller. Who is that?
No, that's Cameron.
Oh.
I don't know why they have a picture of Cameron, but that's okay. I like Cameron. So
Cameron's okay, too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He was kind of underappreciated.
He was.
Yeah. Is he the guy who drove the car off the porch?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Out of his dad's garage. Yeah.
Jeff Jarvis, thank you for joining us from your postal conference.
I'm going to go postal!
via MiFi.
It won't be the first time. It won't be the last time.
Worked really good. It's great, really well. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for being here. Gina, Jeff is at buzzmachine.com. His book is Public Parts. You must buy it now. Gina Trapani is at smarterware.org and thinkupapp.com. Thank you all for being here. We do this show every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 2000 UTC at twit.tv. But you can always get it after the fact. Subscribe. That way you'll get it every day. Audio and video available at twit.tv and wherever finer podcasts are aggregated. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday on This Week in Google. Bye-bye.